got the flag.
Good. Almost there, huh? Everybody on the call? Okay, let's get this thing started. We'll call to order. Morning, everybody, and thanks for being on the call. At this time, I'll recognize Commissioner Presley so he can recognize our pastor for the morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're pleased to have Pastor James Hull join us by phone this morning to give our opening prayer for the commission meeting. Pastor Hull is the founder and executive officer of Vision Group and also was a longtime reporter for WTVA News out of Tupelo and is a great community activist, good longtime friend. So, Pastor Hull, I think you're on the line. If you will, give us our opening prayer. May be muted. You may have to unmute yourself. Is he on?
Pastor, are you on?
Yeah, he's on. We just
You hit
can't hear.
star 6.
Yeah, he's on, so. Yeah. Well, Mr. Chairman, if he comes back on, we'll come back around to him.
Yep.
I guess the best we can do. Lauren, will you call him?
Okay, somebody call him and let him know.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we'll get started with the consent docket. Adoption of proposed consent docket for March 2021 meeting of the commission. Do we have a motion to adopt the consent docket?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Let's move to the telecommunications agenda. It's discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2018 UA 157, Crown Castle order granting extension of time. Ms. Denmark. Yeah, Ms. Denmark. Star 6 to unmute.
Everything looks good right there. Can somebody talk just to make sure?
Who's called in? Call into that line if you would and see. We're gonna stand by a minute, everyone. Take a short recess till we can get this figured out.
Angel texted and said she can't hear us on the phone. Maybe that.
Welcome to AT&T's teleconference service. Please enter your access code, followed by the pound sign. There are 36 participants on the call, including you. You are joining your conference as a participant. For a menu of available commands, press *#. Your line is now muted.
That's the problem. We're muted.
We gotta be unmuted.
That's the problem. We're muted. Lawrence, Catherine, we're muted. Oh. I just got a text that Pastor Hull gave a great prayer. We just didn't get to hear it. Everybody else on the call did, so.
Is the pastor still on the call?
I don't know if he's still on or not. He did a wonderful job in our absence, so.
Well, we'll thank the pastor.
I told him if there was anybody who could get it through the clouds, it was him. So.
Spirit moved.
All right, Ms. Denmark, are you there?
Okay, can anybody hear us?
Your line is now unmuted.
Ms. Denmark, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, Commissioner. I can hear you now.
There we go. Okay, look, we've kind of went through part of the docket already, but apparently we were on mute on our end. I don't know how that happened, but we are going to move on to the telecommunications agenda. I'll repeat this: discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2018 UA 157 Crown Castle order granting extension of time. Mr. Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This petition is for an extension of time to begin operations of regulated services in the state of Mississippi. Crown Castle operates primarily as a wholesale and enterprise telecommunications carrier and was granted a CPCN on December 11, 2018. The company has already made a substantial capital investment related to non-regulated telecommunications infrastructure in Mississippi and requests additional time to begin offering regulated services in the state. The proposed extension will expire on June 9, 2021. The petition has been reviewed and the staff propounded 2 sets of data requests to Crown Castle. Staff finds that the petition is in order and staff recommends approval.
Okay. Do we have any questions regarding this?
I have a motion we approve.
Second.
Wow, okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I like that. Zip through. Number 2, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2020 UA 204 Lingo Telecom of the South LLC transfer of customers and cancellation of CPN. Ms. Denmark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This application is for an internal corporate reorganization where customers currently served by Lingo South will be transferred to Matrix. The same entities hold the controlling interest in both Matrix and Lingo Telecom of the South, so the reorganization is completely pro forma and is not subject to FCC approval. The transition will be invisible to customers because both companies operate under the Lingo name, but customer notifications have been provided. All services will continue under the current rates, terms, and conditions. Lingo Telecom of the South also asks to surrender their CPCN concurrently with this transaction. The petition's been reviewed and staff finds the petition is in order. We recommend approval.
Move we approve.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Hey, before we go on to the water and sewer, Commissioner Presley, I'd like you to reintroduce the pastor to us.
All right, Pastor Hull, are you with us? We may have already lost him. Okay, well, we thought he was back on. No problem, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you anyway.
We appreciate his prayers anyway. We'll send him a text. Thank you.
Yes, okay, good. All right, then we'll go on to the water and sewer, and number 1 is discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2018 UA 171 Heatherwood Utilities LLC, order granting a supplemental certificate to Heatherwood. Ms. Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The order before the Commission grants the petition filed by Heatherwood Utilities LLC on September 7, 2018. In its petition, Heatherwood seeks a supplemental certificate of public convenience and necessity from the Commission to construct, maintain, and operate a sewer system within a specified area of Lamar County, fully described in Exhibit A, which is attached to the proposed order. The Commission initially granted Heatherwood a CPCN for sewer service within a specified area of Lamar County on September 24, 2009, in docket 2008 UA 178. Granting Heatherwood's petition in this docket will further broaden its sewer service area within Lamar County. The Commission has jurisdiction to decide the matter. Due and proper notice the pendency of the proceeding has been given. There were no motions to intervene, objections, protests, or comments filed in the docket. Heatherwood Utilities is ready, willing, fit, and able to construct, operate, and maintain the sewer system in the additional area requested. Heatherwood Utilities has demonstrated the public convenience and necessity of the expansion of its sewer service into the additional area requested to be certificated in this docket. On the advice of the Mississippi Public Utility staff and after its own review of the docket, the legal staff recommends the Commission grant the petition filed by Heatherwood Utilities LLC in this docket and issue the supplemental CPCN to Heatherwood Utilities to construct, operate, and maintain a sewer system in the area described in Exhibit A of the order.
Okay, sounds good. Do I have any questions on this? Okay. Do I need have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, number 3 is, number 2 is discussion and possible action regarding the proposed docket number 2020 UN 180 La Papillon. Is that how you say that? LLC? La Papillon? A notice of intentions of La Papillon to increase rates for sewer services in its certificated area in Lamar. Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The order before the Commission allows for La Papillon Utility Company LLC to charge a higher flat sewer rate than presently being charged and to make certain revisions to its tariff. On November 16, 2020, La Papillon filed its notice of intent requesting a flat monthly sewer rate of $30. The Mississippi Public Utility staff conducted a full investigation, and then in January of 2021, La Papillon amended its rate filing, requesting instead a $20 per month flat sewer service rate. The amended flat sewer monthly sewer rate of $20 is necessary for the system's maintenance and to otherwise ensure reasonably adequate sewer service to its ratepayers. The record supports the finding that La Papillon's annual operational costs have increased significantly since its last rate increase in January of 2009. The proposed revised tariff is attached to the order as Exhibit A. The Commission has jurisdiction over the matter. Due and proper notice of the pendency of the proceeding has been given. There were no interventions, objections, protests, or comments filed in the docket. The new monthly rate is fair, just, and reasonable, and after review of the docket and taking the advice of the Mississippi Public Utility staff, the legal staff recommends that the Commission approve the tariff attached to this order, including the new monthly sewer rate.
Okay. All right, anybody have any questions? All right, do we have a motion?
I move we approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Now, number 3, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2020 UA 207, Delta City Utility District, order granting a supplemental certificate to Delta City. Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The order before the Commission will approve the petition filed by Delta City Utility District on December 30th, 2020. In its petition, Delta City seeks a supplemental certificate of public convenience and necessity, expanding its water service into certain areas located within Sharkey County, fully described in Exhibit A of the order before you. The Commission previously granted Delta City a CPCN for water service, also in Sharkey County, in docket number 1973 UA 2555. Granting this petition will broaden the water service area of Delta City within Sharkey County, Mississippi. The Commission has jurisdiction to decide this matter. Due and proper notice of the pendency of these proceedings has been given. No interventions, objections, protests, or comments were filed in the docket. Delta City Utility District is ready, willing, fit, and able to construct, operate, and maintain the water system within the proposed expanded service area. Delta City has demonstrated the public convenience and necessity of the expansion of its water service into the additional area requested to be certificated in this docket. After its review of the docket and on the advice of the Mississippi Public Utility staff, the legal staff recommends the Commission grant and issue the supplemental CPCN to Delta City Utility District.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
No questions? No questions. Motion to adopt proposed order.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We'll move on now to number 4, which is discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order docket number 2020 UA 208, Fannin Water Association, order granting a supplemental certificate to Fannin. Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The order before the Commission grants the application filed by Fannin Water Association on December 22nd, 2020. In its application, Fannin Water Association seeks a second supplemental certificate of public convenience and necessity from the Commission to construct, maintain, and operate a system for the collection, transmission, treatment, and disposal of sewage within a specified area of Rankin County, fully described in Exhibit A to the proposed order before you. The Commission initially granted Fannin Water Association a CPCN for sewer service within a specified area of Rankin County on June 30th, 2005, in docket 2005 UA 158. And then in October of 2018, the Commission granted a supplemental CPCN to Fannin in docket 2018 UA 100, which expanded Fannin's service area again within Rankin County. Granting Fannin Water Association's application in this docket will further expand its sewer service area within Rankin County. The Commission previously granted Fannin a CPCN for water service within the proposed sewer service area. The Commission has jurisdiction over this matter. Due proper notice of the pendency of this proceeding has been given. There are no motions to intervene, objections, protests, or comments filed in the docket. Fannin Water Association is ready, willing, fit, and able to construct, operate, and maintain the sewer system within the additional area requested in its application. Fannin Water Association has demonstrated the public convenience and necessity of the expansion of its sewer service into the additional area requested to be certificated in this docket. On the advice of Mississippi Public Utility staff and after its own review of the docket, the legal staff recommends that the Commission grant the application filed by Fannin Water Association, Inc. in this docket and issue a supplemental CPCN to Fannin Water Association, Inc. to construct, operate, and maintain a water system in the area described in Exhibit A of the order.
Okay. Anybody have questions?
Motion to adopt proposed order.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We're going to move on to the administrative agenda now. Discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order docket number 2020 UA 203 MS Solar or Miss Solar 5 LLC. Order of referral. Ms. Collier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just an order referring this matter to Commissioner Presley. This is wholly situated in the Northern District.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we refer it to Commissioner Presley.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Commissioner, that's gonna be a big project for you folks in Chickasaw County.
Pretty,
potentially.
well, that one's actually in Lowndes.
Lowndes?
This is a Lowndes.
Oh, this is
actually
Lowndes County?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good deal.
Chickasaw hadn't been filed yet. I think it's waiting to come.
Oh, okay. I thought that was my mistake.
No problem.
A lot of them coming.
Yes, sir.
All right, the next one is discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2019 AD 24 Entergy Mississippi audit of Entergy LLC, of Mississippi LLC pursuant to Mississippi Code 77-342. Ms. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This matter and the next one are actually related, but I think it will make more sense to take them up individually. What this entails is the annual certification of the fuel audits to the legislature. The statute, Mississippi Code Annotated 77-342, as you know, requires annual financial and procurement audits to be performed of Mississippi Power Company and Entergy. The statute also requires that the commission certify copies of those reports to the legislature now by March 15th. Staff has reviewed the reports and has submitted comments, and we have representatives of each of the auditing firms on the line today to present a very brief overview of their findings and then to take any questions from you guys, from the commissioners, if you have any. This is a procedural step that simply addresses whether or not the auditors met their requirements under the statute in performing the audits. And after this point, the commission will internally review the findings and meet to issue separate subsequent orders as to which of the recommendations should be implemented and in what manner. So first, with respect to Entergy, the financial audit was performed by Horn, and the procurement audit was performed by Liberty Consulting Group. And we have representatives of each of those companies available on the phone to provide a brief summary to you. We'll start with Horn, and I believe the representative on the phone is Ms. Randa Craig.
Ms. Craig, are you on the line?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, yep, sorry. Good morning. My name is Randy Craig. I'm a manager with Horn LLP in the Hattiesburg office. I have served as the project manager on the audit of the schedule of allowable fuel and purchase energy costs of Entergy Mississippi since 2019. Our 2020 audit materiality was determined using the recoverable fuel costs reported by the company. We selected and tested approximately 200 samples from 2 periods, October 2019 through June 2020, and July through September of 2020. Due to restrictions in place due to COVID-19, all 2020 audit procedures were performed remotely. This was a slight change from the 2019 audit execution, in which we spent 2 weeks on location. But thanks to technology, we were able to easily call an audible and substitute the on-site presentations and discussions for virtual meetings. The change resulted in no material impact to the planned audit procedures. We issued our independent auditor's report on December 4th, 2020, with an unmodified opinion. Procedures were performed as it relates to the company's schedule of over/under recoveries, as well as related party transactions. We noted both areas were reported consistent with prior year and within our expectations. We are not aware of any uncorrected misstatements. We encountered no disagreements with management over the application of significant significant accounting principles, the basis for management's judgment on any significant matters, the scope of the audit, or significant disclosures to be included in the schedule. Additionally, we noted no control deficiencies during our procedures. We will be pleased to respond to any questions you have about our report or the procedures performed. We appreciate the opportunity to continue to be of service to the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
We just getting single report for each?
Yes, and then next, that was for the financial portion of the audit for Entergy, which Horn completed. And then we also have John Antonuck on the line from Liberty Consulting to provide us an overview of Liberty's procurement audit for
Okay.
Entergy.
If I have any, I'll hold off until all auditors have presented for Entergy.
Okay. Mr. Antonuck, whenever you're ready.
Good morning. My name is John Antonuck, and I'm the president of the Liberty Consulting Group. And even in this disembodied format, it's a pleasure to meet with folks from Mississippi again. We examined Entergy Mississippi's fuel and energy procurement and management for the period from October 2019 through September 2020, following a similar audit we did covering the preceding 12 months. Our examination consisted of an integrated review of all EML and Entergy resources and affiliates who play a role in these activities. We found that the structure and alignment of roles and responsibilities, procedures, skills, and coordination among engaged departments remained effective, as did controls and the internal audit organization, which applied sufficient attention to fuel and energy procurement and management. Natural gas is EMP's Entergy Mississippi's primary fuel source. Management continued to apply an effective approach to commodity contracting, in fact, increasing an already robust range of suppliers during this audit period. However, we did note that with gas supplies from the Northeast becoming more important to users in this region, management should engage directly with suppliers from that region, supplementing its approach of relying on its current suppliers to consider supply from that region. Management also continued to manage effectively the pipeline capacity it uses to secure delivery of natural gas to its units. Hedging continued to operate effectively and in accordance with its price stabilization objectives. There had been a prior concern about the quality of data supporting gas purchase decisions. Management has now responded effectively to those concerns, leaving only very marginal improvement opportunities remaining. In particular, we noted that the addition of the Choctaw County combined cycle gas plant has benefited Entergy Mississippi from an operating and dispatch cost perspective, given its very competitive position in relation to other units operating in the MISO region. For coal procurement, as usual, an annual master RFP addressed forecasted needs for the coming several years. The RFP produced a solid level of response, and management carefully evaluated the proposals. Following that evaluation, it made economical purchase decisions, which produced a robust range of supplier diversity, which we consider very important in an industry that continues to be economically very weak. Delivered coal prices for independents remain market competitive. Reported U.S. Energy Information prices placed independents' coal costs at market for the region. Both we and the auditor before us have expressed reservations about continuing variances between forecasted burns guiding coal purchasing volumes in those burn levels that actually result under the contracts that are executed. Those concerns continued and heightened during this audit period. The purchasing strategy and the flat prices for the Powder River Basin coal burned at Independence have provided management significant flexibility in managing those variances. However, this audit period showed that limits on this flexibility can have economic consequence. With natural gas prices falling even lower than they have been in the past for some time, Independence became uneconomic in MISO markets for significantly longer portions of the year. Continuing deliveries of contracted coal without compensating burn of the coal at the plant threatened to produce inventory levels beyond those that management could handle effectively and safely. Cost penalties that would have come with refusing contracted coal deliveries led management to cut its losses by reducing the prices it offered Independence generation into MISO markets to levels below actual Independence costs. This approach did succeed in keeping inventories at or below maximum workable levels, but caused economic loss to EML at a level that, while it is addressed and quantified in our report, has been deemed confidential by management. We recommended in the last audit to address issues like this a quantitatively based assessment of the risks that coal burn forecasts would prove divergent from actual needs. This year's circumstances strongly reinforce the continuing need for Entergy to do so. Already operating beneath historic baseload levels, the station faces further and inevitable inefficiency decline as it progresses through its end-of-life phase. Given persistently low natural gas prices, it appears that Independence may face a need to shift to a different mode of operation from that has been employed in the past. Rail transportation costs, however, for coal deliveries did remain competitive, and in fact, they improved based on favorable fee adjustment provisions in the rail contract. Management has undertaken efforts to reduce the size of its coal car rail fleet as coal burns have dropped. And while it should continue to do so, we observe that it has already succeeded in reducing costs to a level that is low enough to foreclose further material cost savings. With respect to MISO, most EML energy continued to be dispatched into the day-ahead market, supported by well-established and effective team members and processes. Management monitored MISO's real-time market effectively, seeking opportunities to sell additional generation into MISO when its plant costs were favorable. We did, however, find that some EML units dispatch less than other MISO units that have similar dispatch costs. The reason is unknown, but could indicate that dispatch has not been optimized to produce least cost supply. Therefore, EML should investigate the causes of the variances and the implications for supply costs. We found that with respect to plant operations, that the generation organization remained well designed and sufficiently staffed. We did, however, note a marginal shortage in staffing at Independence that appears to have been produced by a since ended COVID-19 related hiring haze. We did see some declines in O&M or outage performance levels at two of the legacy plants during the audit period. We recommended that management undertake efforts to identify and address the causes of those declines. We also found instances of high or growing maintenance backlogs at a number of stations, and we recommended that management develop and execute a plan to ensure that it has the resources needed to perform all planned maintenance activities. Turning now to the last subject of our audit, Grand Gulf, there were no new nuclear fuel cycle contracts during this audit period. Contracts are driven by contracts entered into the prior audit period, and they have remained market competitive. We were tasked in each audit with examining Grand Gulf annual capacity against a measure of 90%. It did very well with respect to that measure in the last audit period, but fell very far shy of it in this audit period, producing very large replacement power costs to EML. Again, those costs are identified in the report, but have been deemed confidential by Entergy. The total costs fall to about a quarter of the level we identified if one eliminates the long refueling and system upgrade outage that Grand Gulf took during this audit period. The refueling outage followed an expected schedule, and it is common for plants of Grand Gulf's age to require overhauls and upgrades of the type performed. Our report explains the means by which we made these calculations and notes that there are other methods for doing so and that data exists to support a variety of those other approaches. And we try to permit, through the information we put in our audit report, others to apply different ways of calculating those costs. I want to close by saying that again this year we thank the staff for its full and timely support for our work, and we thank the companies for its full and timely responses to our request for information. We found both essential in completing this engagement successfully. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the presentations for the Entergy audits.
Okay.
I think they pretty much a good comprehensive report. They did answer most of the questions I kind of had lingering as they went through, so I appreciate the representatives of both Horn and Liberty. Just one thing, there was a mention in there in the report about the audit noted some performance issues in the O&M backlog at some of the generation aspects, and they put forth recommendations to resolve that. And I'm not sure if it's the role of the auditor, of measuring the confidence level that those proper measures would be implemented to resolve that at this time, and that may be further conversations down the road, but that is one I certainly had, and I appreciate them bringing that forth in the report there.
You good, Commissioner?
Yeah, I got one. Mr. Antonuck, I just got a question. You mentioned what Commissioner Bailey just referenced, high and growing maintenance logs, backlogs at several plants. Are you satisfied that management has appropriately responded to that with their response to you? And obviously, we'll be looking at that in an order coming about. But in light of, obviously, what we've seen throughout the country in the last 2 weeks, when you hear that, that's very concerning. So I'd like for you to speak to that in just a minute.
Yeah, I would say that we are satisfied that management has addressed the staffing issues that were imposed by COVID restrictions, which we believe are likely to have had some impact. We also believe that, on a verbal basis, management expressed recognition of the need to address those backlogs and indicated that it planned to do so. By the time we had completed our report, however, those plans had not yet been executed. So what would normally be the case is for whoever does the next audit to, knowing that that's an issue, determine what has been done. But if that's the case, then there won't be any outside follow-up, meaning outside from the auditors until the next coming audit for the 12 months that'll end this coming October.
Well, I mean, them verbally saying it and doing it's two different things. So I don't know that we're going to be, obviously, I hope you can work with our staff in the follow-up order to actually get them to commit to that in writing. Because I don't think you explain to people in Texas why they don't have power just because somebody promised they would in fact fix something. Is there a way, Ms. Dixon, in the follow-up order we can get that nailed down?
Yes, that can certainly be something that's discussed both internally with staff and then also in connection with the company. Typically, we do have meetings with both while we are working on preparing the orders, implementing the recommendations.
Right, but I mean.
So it could be addressed, it could be required to be, put in an action plan specifically.
Correct.
Yes.
That's good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thought there was some resulting work product
That's
from
right.
all this and the
Well,
action plan.
Well, my concern was that we just, it just seemed like we skimmed over it just a minute, and then, we have a verbal assurance from the company that they're going to in fact do something about it. I'm not doubting their word, but that don't wash with people that you can't explain why the power's out. So,
Yeah,
this is of highest concern in light of everything that's going on in the country, and we just can't be in a position as regulators to take somebody we regulate's word on it in a hope and a prayer. I mean, they need to commit to a maintenance schedule, a compliance filing with whatever the auditor, the recommendations are, and bring it back before the commission. That was my only question, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Okay, any further questions? Do we have a motion?
I move we approve as presented and transmit to the legislature.
There you go.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Move on to number 3 is discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2019 AD25, Mississippi Power Company audit of Mississippi Power Company pursuant to Mississippi Code 77-342. Ms. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the same process, but with respect to Mississippi Power Company. In this case, CRI performed the financial audit, and London Economics performed the procurement audit. So we will start with the presentation by CRI's representative. I believe we have Francois Hood on the line.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Francois Hood. I'm an audit partner with Cards and Ingram. First, I'd like to thank the PSC for our appointment to serve as auditor of the fuel adjustment schedule of Mississippi Power for the past 2 years. I want to ensure you that we take our responsibility to assist you in your role of governance very seriously. As part of our audit, we've issued 2 reports. The first report is the audited fuel adjustment schedules and the related footnotes. It contains our audit opinion on the schedules of Mississippi Power. The second report we issued is our required communication to you in your role of governance. I'm going to provide you a quick highlight of both of these reports. I can do this in less than 3 minutes. Let's start with the auditor's report on the schedules. Our auditor's opinion on the schedules is located on page 1 through 3 of our audit report following the table of contents. In our auditor's report, we issued an unqualified opinion stating that, in our opinion, the schedules are presented fairly, in all material respect, in accordance with the Mississippi Code, FERC's rules and regulations, and the PSC rules. There is an emphasis of matter paragraph, as there was in prior years, to highlight the fact that we did not perform an assessment of the company's practice for economical purchase and their use of fuel and electric energy, as this portion of the audit was performed by London Economics. The second report we issued is our required communication letter. As part of the audit, we're required to communicate to those in charge of governance certain matter resulting from the audit. In this report, we communicate to you what are our responsibility under generally accepted auditing standards, and we confirm that management has the overall responsibility for the schedules. We're required to comment about the quality of the accounting policies used by the company, and those where significant management estimates are involved. We summarize these on page 7 of our report, and these have not changed since prior year. We're required to inform you of audit adjustments arising as part of the audit. We had no adjustments, either corrected or uncorrected, identified in the audit this year. We're required to report any fraud involving senior management or fraud that could cause the schedules to be materially misstated, and inform you that none were noted. We're required to communicate material weaknesses in internal control. And we'll report to you that we did not identify any such weaknesses in internal control. Other requirements, communication included that we had no disagreement with management or encountered no difficulties in performing the audit. We also provide you a copy of written management representation that we received as part of the audit. You can find this on pages 9 through 11. And finally, we confirm in our report our independence as auditors. Thank you again for our appointment in 2020, and I'll be available for any questions if you have any.
Okay, anyone have any questions at this time?
Not at this moment.
Okay.
Okay, and now for London Economics, I believe we have Gabriel Rumi and Marie Fagan on the line.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Gabriel Rumi. I am a managing consultant at London Economics International. I led the audit for the Mississippi Power Company. So we reviewed Mississippi Power's practices, procedures, and processes to ensure the efficient and economic procurement of fuel and purchased energy for the 2019 and 20 audit period. We also performed previous year's audit for the 2018-2019 audit. We performed our analysis and reached our conclusions based on information received through virtual interviews this year, document reviews, and formal data requests. Overall, we generally found that the processes, procedures, and oversight at Mississippi Power and Southern Company are thorough and professional. However, we did present several recommendations that could help improve processes within Mississippi Power and also within Southern Company, and that could ultimately benefit the consumers. Our recommendations notably focus on fuel need forecasting, as also mentioned by my colleagues from Liberty, as a better forecast would allow better planning of fuel procurement. With respect to coal procurement and inventory, we did recommend that MPC continue exploring alternative transportation options or coal supply options, and also that Mississippi Power reevaluate the current target inventory level for bituminous coal at Plant Daniel. Also, we looked at fleet operations. We did recommend that MPC explore a cost-sharing mechanism for its plants that are committed to serve full load, and also review the trend in forced outages for some of its older plants. So that's the gist of our recommendations. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to perform this audit, and I am available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we good to go with questions?
Well, couple real quick. That's
Yeah,
okay.
no, I'm just making sure you're good.
Absolutely. Yes, that concludes the presenters for Mississippi Power.
All right.
Go ahead.
So just real quick, in understanding that this audit was through October 2020, correct?
Correct.
So
Well,
just,
it's through September, it's October 1st through September 30th, I believe, is the
Okay.
audit period, yes.
and understanding that that is the period of which it's being studied, this winter has not been
That's right.
included in that. Just noticed that, through the numbers of the Mississippi Power study, that total fuel costs were down by 88.5 million. Energy sales were down, purchased energy was down, and led to an over recovery. Is there a thought process of how those over recoveries and extra revenues could help buffer this winter's volatility in fuel costs if observed, or is that not really germane at this time?
Are you asking me that question?
Well,
Commissioner?
you or the
Well, I think that would come into
consultants
play
as
in a,
well.
in a separate docket. And,
Okay.
And come into the true ups and things that staff deals with in some of the, and the other rate affecting dockets.
Well, maybe
But
that-
if Gabriel has a perspective in terms of how that affects their
And that may be
auditing
more
process.
related to the price forecasting mechanisms that he discussed there. And just kind of wondering what led to those pretty significant reductions or
And one thing, the process that comes next in terms of preparing the orders on implementing recommendations, a lot of times, the commission will take certain items, potentially such as this one, and specifically ask the next year's fuel audit to look into it further and inquire as to certain things that may have, affected that or been affected by that. And that's something that we could do.
Okay.
There will be a process. This was the end of this 2-year contract for these auditing firms. So depending who performs the next audits, the commission certainly has the ability to instruct those auditors to specifically look into certain issues. And then to the extent you have really specific questions such as this, it can even go into the contract or the RFP.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps answer your
yeah,
question.
it does. I appreciate it. Isn't it?
Commissioner Price?
No question.
Okay. All right, since there's no further questions, do I have a motion?
Move we approve as presented and transmit to the legislature.
Second.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next is discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order establishing docket to investigate the membership of Entergy Mississippi LLC in the Mid-Continent Independent Transmission Operator. Commissioner Presley, you wanted to talk about this, so go ahead.
My understanding is, Mr. Chairman, we were going to hold this item to next month. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I'd like to hold it, table it, simply because there are some other questions that I have before I want to take a vote on it.
Sure. Certainly understand that, and if we come back to it next month. I'd just like to say on this item, there's been a lot of discussion in the last week about it. And I want to say first, thank you to Commissioner Maxwell and Commissioner Bailey for what I think is a very good joint effort on all of our parts and looking into our utility infrastructure in light of the ice storms that we saw. Luckily, our utilities performed extremely well in Mississippi, but that doesn't mean we don't have a duty to look at the absolute mess that's happened in the state of Texas and to prevent that at all costs in Mississippi. The one thing that was concerning for me, and I know my colleagues share this, that, in my opinion, leads to our need to take this up in the month of April on the membership of MISO is really not only just the ice storm, but bigger enveloping issues that relate to our participation in that market. First and foremost, the internal stakeholder process within MISO forced on Tuesday of the ice storm our utilities in Mississippi, who were producing 800 megawatts more electricity than the entire state was using, but forced us at 6:50 that afternoon to get notifications of forced outages, or as they're termed in the press, rolling blackouts. That notice came, and our utilities had exactly 6 minutes to make preparations and to begin shedding load throughout their territory. Now, what that looks like is from...
Mute your,
Yeah, mute your phone.
mute your phone. Everybody move.
Had exactly 6 minutes to begin cutting off circuits throughout their territory. That gave absolutely no notice whatsoever to families who have loved ones who have medical necessity for electricity, to different businesses, but just to protect public health and welfare, 6 minutes. Now, that, in my opinion, is inexcusable, and one of the reasons we need to look at this membership, not in an attempt to necessarily exit MISO, but to try to correct the problems that exist there. Cooperative Energy, our largest generation and transmission, our only G&T co-op in the state, but one of our largest, were forced to go and begin shutting off their distribution co-ops without any notice. They didn't have time. They had 6 minutes, or they would be in a violation when it came to the control room. Our state was forced to take the same share of forced outages spread across the region as other states, although Mississippi utilities performed well, produced 800 more megawatts of power than was needed during this time. That's bad enough. But the idea that we would have 6 minutes notice in which no one in an impending ice storm on the coldest day of the year had any more notice than 6 minutes is inexcusable. Now, I'll get to the other communication problems that happen on the distribution level later, but as it pertains to MISO, that's 6 minutes that is involved. This docket, this proposed order that was sent out that we're going to look at next month, also, though, doesn't just take into context the problems that were related to the ice storm. The stakeholder process within MISO for a long time has been an utter mess. It's been one in which states' voices have been diluted. Mississippians have been, our staff and our representation have constantly been forced to press against and fight against and guard our cost allocations in Mississippi to ensure that we are protecting the economics of our people, while at the same time we're not paying cost allocation or paying through a cost allocation model for renewable energy policies that are set somewhere else in the United States. That's not to say they shouldn't be doing that somewhere else. The issue is whether or not Mississippi can fulfill its own, not only its own potential, but also guard against cost impacts that we should not be sharing in other places. Lastly, there's been a proposal in the last hurricane. I want to make sure I get this number just exactly right. In Hurricane Laura, $90 million of administrative costs were spread across the MISO footprint in response to the hurricane. Now, our benefits in MISO with Entergy memberships about $50 million a year, give or take. Some in there, it depends on the year. With the current proposals to localize those administrative costs, that takes away in 2 years our entire, one hurricane could take away our entire benefits of being in MISO. I say all that to say that, and I've got calls from the MISO people all weekend about, membership MISO. Well, the reason we were forced to take a forced outage that, by the way, started at 6:50, was supposed to be until 1 in the morning. It ended up getting generation back within about 30 minutes, and then it was over with by 9 o'clock, thank God. It's because we're a member of MISO. Everything in that's not bad. There obviously are economic benefits, but it's appropriate to look at what is that membership value proposition when you're looking at, again, we produce more power than we needed, coldest day of the year, folks literally suffering in other parts of the country, and our utilities did their job. They did it extremely well. They were prepared. The commission, all three of us worked very hard. All three of us sitting up here worked very hard on some immediate issues to get things continuing to run and continuing to produce power when people were scared and we had problems throughout this country. And yet we still take the same punishment, even though our utilities were prepared and did the right thing. There's absolutely no incentive in that market to be prepared. That worries me. Secondly is, what is the communication problem? How on God's green earth could you not know more than 6 minutes ahead of time to let our utilities know that they're going to have to begin forcing outages? Now, somebody knew something. And somebody knew something 6 minutes before rather than 10 minutes before, and 6 minutes before rather than an hour before. And after that 6:50 notification that we got, within about 45 minutes, what would have been, I think, a 57 megawatt load shed for Entergy ended up being about 30, or it was cut in third. And then it all of a sudden was over with. We need to know what went on in that process. What happened? Why did you not know 7 minutes? You knew 6 minutes ahead of time. If you knew 6 minutes ahead of time, why do you know 60 minutes ahead of time? And the communication was extremely frustrating, to say the least, during that period. So, I know that there will be some consternation or some questioning by maybe some in the utility business as to us looking at this type of membership. There's no doubt there are economic benefits to being a member of MISO, but that does not mean that it's all sunshine and roses and that they're not internal processes that need to be fixed. I was here when we joined MISO. I know all the history related to why we're there. And it wasn't because one day somebody just woke up and decided it'd be a great thing to get involved in MISO. It's tied to a Justice Department investigation, tied to a Sherman Antitrust Act violation or an allegation of violation by the Justice Department. And we looked at this, measured 3 times before we cut once to join, and it's just an appropriate time coupled with everything we've seen elsewhere. And add on top of it a 6-minute notice, a punishment to our utilities that we're doing the right thing. This is a proper place for us to look at, and I certainly support the chairman's move to put it to April. We'll take more time to study it and make sure our order is correct, but this is something that if we don't take this action, we will be derelict in our duty. Let me be clear about that. We will be derelict in doing what we're supposed to do because we saw on Tuesday night in that ice storm the problems. We saw it. Cooperative Energy saw it. Entergy saw it. Every one of us up here scrambling to notify our constituents that there could be forced outages. Something nobody wants to ever have to put out. Something nobody wants to have to announce to the press. And it wasn't because Entergy Mississippi wasn't doing their job. It wasn't because Cooperative Energy wasn't doing their job. They were doing their job. But we took the same pro rata share as other states, even though our utilities did the right thing. And so I appreciate my colleagues willing to work on this issue with us as we go forward. To many of the MISO folks who I hear moaning about this move, you're in the business to answer questions. That's what you get paid the big bucks to do. And it's legitimate. It is a legitimate question for a commission to ask. And if you don't like those questions, you don't need to be in the utility business. Because these are legitimate questions for us to ask. All three of us sitting up here had constituents affected by this problem. and it's a bigger problem than just the ice storm. You know it, and I know it. That's not to say everything's bad, but there's got to be internal reforms that meet the public interest test. There has to be. And I think it's fair for every commission, whoever wants to, throughout the MISO footprint, north and south, to look at these type of policies and try to work together. We've not been very successful through the stakeholder process. Our support staff and attorneys and representation of the state many times in that process have not, I don't feel, been heard because the process itself is such a mess. And it's such a, it's one in which states' voices continue to get diminished. And so, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to shut up with that. I'm like somebody getting the Holy Ghost on this. I could keep going on and on. But I think this is very important, and I appreciate y'all's support in looking in this and figure out a way in which we can make this process better or make a true up or down decision on our membership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, not to be repetitive of what Commissioner Presley said, some of the things, but he did indicate that, yeah, it was nearly 10 years ago that Entergy and MISO filed a joint application to more or less transfer functional control of the transmission network from Entergy Mississippi over to MISO, and that grant was requested, I believe, in 2012. But since that time, as mentioned, there has definitely been recognized annual benefits to Entergy and its consumers. However, there are some expectations that I believe that have not been met or come to fruition over that time. And like any contract, agreement, or certificate that this, or answer to a petition that this commission provides, I certainly don't think it hurts to reevaluate the feasibility of this membership and the conditions and the structure by which Entergy participates in the MISO region. And I just think to ensure the customers continue to have those benefits, this type of review is certainly necessary. So, while, as mentioned, this order is not a direct response to the February 16 events, the economic impacts that it had on our business, on our consumers, and others certainly plays a role in my thought process of how we should go about doing this review. And, the timing is really coincidental on that. It's something that's been looked at for a bit. But, certainly as we see how the markets continue to evolve, I certainly think this comprehensive health checkup of this relationship between Entergy and MISO and the impact it has on customers, our constituents, is certainly timely and warranted. And I also look forward to reviewing this on the agenda, on the April agenda as well.
Okay, with no further questions, then I'll make a motion that we table this until next commission meeting. Do I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
So we're putting it on the agenda in April, right?
Right.
Okay,
Next-
okay,
next
yeah.
commission.
I vote aye.
All righty. If there's no further,
One more.
there is. I wrote it on the wrong one. I'm sorry. Number 5, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2020 NC02, Mississippi Public Service Commission versus Arrow Bridge Holdings Incorporated, order for entry of civil penalty. Ms. Bennett.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is just a imposition of civil penalty by default. Arrow Bridge has failed to answer for several months. They've received several notifications via certified mail. So I'm asking the Commission to impose this penalty and so I can get it enforced in Chancery Court.
I
Okay.
move we approve.
Yeah, move to approve.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Ms. Bennett. You're doing a good job.
Thank y'all.
Doing very good work. Okay, with that,
I have one introduction of a staff. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I feel like I'm down here in detention. I had a staff introduction, but when at the proper time, I didn't know what you had.
no, it is, and I
Go
was
ahead.
just going to say if there's anything else.
I'll follow up after.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've been losing employees in the Northern District like dropping flies, and so we're bringing new folks on. I introduced Ty James last month as my new policy director, came to us from Congressman Thompson's office. And I'd also like to introduce Chris Monjo, who just started as special assistant. He moved down his first week. When he got here, everybody was home working with ice. And so he came from the balmy state of Massachusetts. So we think he brought the ice storm with him, Mr. Chairman.
Well, good to see you guys.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Speaking of ice storms, I guess I just wanted to circle back in I know Commissioner Presley talked about the impacts there, but you know, the impacts are certainly felt statewide, and I don't know if we have all the numbers in yet finalized of the number of customers that actually experienced outages, and we're still in an ongoing situation with low and no water pressure in certain communities here in the state. And I just want to, you know, recognize and say thanks to all the hard workers, the linemen, the folks right out there in those frigid, cold, frozen conditions, trying to restore that power in a timely manner as quickly and as safely as possible. I'm not aware of any incidents that occurred of any injury or major injuries, and I know while some folks were certainly dissatisfied with the length of outages they experienced in certain parts of the state, even in here in the Central District, some up to 10 to 11 to 12 days. This was a major event here in the state, you know, set some record temperatures, and the way that thing sat in and just stuck around was certainly unprecedented as well. But, you know, as Commissioner Presley mentioned a minute ago, we were all working hard to answer questions, assure folks, and, you know, I just want to recognize all the linemen that worked from in the state, came in from out of state to work with our cooperative partners as well as our investor-owned utilities to perform and restore those services as quickly as possible. And certainly, the review that we're going to start on the utility infrastructure will help us shed light on the practices there, some of the measures that can potentially go in place to further harden our systems and create resiliency opportunities to reduce those outages, not just in the electricity sector, but also on the water side as well. And certainly see these fuel audits as a beginning mechanism to help inform the PSC process, particularly on the generation aspect of it and the fuel side of it. So that's all I had on that, but my thanks to the workers out there this past couple weeks.
Amen.
Yeah, amen to that, because those guys did good, and we had a tremendous showing of out-of-state folks coming in, and very, very appreciative to those folks that came from afar. There's a lot of people, even on the coast, it was cold. Yeah. And pipes busting and water problems. So, again, I just say thanks to the staff, too, that also worked hard with us, especially those aggravating calls you got from me over this whole incident. I'm sure the other two commissioners, but, you know, when it's an incident like that, and I was here when I was working for the commission during the 93 ice storm, and I think this was a lot worse than that storm. So kudos to everyone here working with that. If there's nothing further,